good morning, and welcome to another edition of the JustUs Talk Show. Today, we have a very, very special treat for you. We are going to discuss our next generation media internship program, and joining us today is our entire production team, made up of students, master's and doctorate level students from Adler University, who are a part of the Social Justice Practicum program, in which they spend 6 months with us, helping us to deliver to you fresh content every Saturday for the JustUs Beat Talk Show and the Just Us Youth Talk Show. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Tell a friend, call your nieces and nephews, folks who want to learn new skill sets, that want to help us produce content around justice issues. Let them know we are on and come join us. We will also have a segment where we'll do Q&A and take your questions. And so be looking out for the number to be displayed in our lower thirds, which basically is at the bottom of the screen. We will flash before you the number to call in. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Anelli. I'm sorry, not Anelli. We're going to turn it over to the entire team to ask us questions about the program that we have implemented here. Okay, so let's get started. You all ready? Okay, great. Anelli, are you with us?
Yeah.
I don't see you on screen. Oh, your video's not working this morning.
No.
Okay, all right, great. So did I get that right? Were we gonna do you first?
Yeah, we could start asking as I supervise these questions first and remind the audience what Justice Beat Talk Show is all about.
Okay, great.
My first question would be, could you provide an overview of the Justice Beat Talk Show's mission and goals, particularly in relation to supporting families affected by incarceration?
Very good question. So our initial goal was to address the mass incarceration of individuals in this country. And right now, the statistic is about 1 in 3 Americans are touched by incarceration. And so what we found is that a lot of family members and friends who have a loved one that's incarcerated are not aware of all of the resources available to them. It's specifically for those who are either incarcerated and or those who have been released from incarceration, those who are going through the reintegration phase. And we wanted to find a way to present information to the family members that would allow them to feel confident in being able to navigate the system on the inside or the systems outside when their loved one is released. So we bring to you on Saturdays different people, whether they're in the state of Missouri or nationally, who are in the trenches doing this work in the justice reform space.
Awesome. My next question would be, how is the internship program structured, and what are the primary responsibilities and goals you guys have for us?
Restate the question again.
How is the internship program structured?
Okay. The program is structured in 2 phases. We have 2 shows. We have the Justice Beat Talk Show, which focuses on the adult population. And then we have the Just Us Youth Talk Show that's specifically focusing on juvenile justice issues. Okay. Now, our internship program is structured with 2 production teams. And the individuals that you see on the screen here are the individuals that help us make this relevant for you on Saturdays. They're the ones that are behind the scenes doing the research, developing questions, identifying speakers that allow us to do shows for you on Saturdays. Now, how we are able to do that is we have this internship structured fully in a fully remote posture. Basically, everyone you see here is in a different state, okay? And we operate from October through April. However, we are only live 12 weeks. So that's from February through April. The internship program, the hours during the week are from anywhere from like 8 to 11 hours. I think ours is at 11.5 because we include the Saturday time on the episodes. So during the week, they put in about roughly 8 to 9 hours um, on given days during the week. On Friday mornings, we meet for our weekly debriefing and group supervision. And our weekly debriefing allows us to connect to make sure that we are prepared for our Saturday episodes. It allows the team to ask questions if they're having difficulty securing a guest or difficulty shaping maybe questions around a topic. And it also allows us, because we're a team, to make sure that we're all collectively working together around marketing, promo, photos, production, around questions, so that we have the synergy to pull this off seamlessly on Saturdays. So we have a very structured manner in which we produce these two shows. We also have, in terms of infrastructure, we utilize a well-known social media platform to be able to communicate, because we're all remote. And it's important for us to be able to communicate in a timely manner. And so we have those softwares in place to be able to do so. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. That was a two-part question. What was the second part of that question?
I think the second part I could ask the interns now that I think of it.
Okay.
My other question would be, how are the topics and questions for the talk show developed?
Who wants to take a stab at that one?
I can take a stab at that. So recently, we actually started developing our questions for the JustUs Youth Talk Show. We started developing our questions for next season, for the next cohort, in their hopefully interviews regarding our topics. So we kind of came in with some topics already prepared for us, having a little bit of the work done for us already. And then we engaged in our own research of the topic and sought out some potential guest speakers based on some recommendations from the last cohort, but also doing our own research and seeing who are some valuable speakers that we could have joining us.
Great. Great.
My other question would be, for the executive team, how has the interns impacted you?
Karen, why don't you take that?
Okay, Elaine, I have to say, I'm not quite sure if I'm the best person to answer because I've been less engaged with this particular cycle. But what I can say from the earlier cycles that I have been, more actively engaged in, what has been very impactful is the passion and the enthusiasm for the topic. A lot of the students in the earlier, I could say, iterations, they were in the early stages of their education, particularly at Adler, where I've had a lot of my experience. And so there's a lot of excitement about the topic, a lot of concern, a lot of desire for advocacy, just really a lot of enthusiasm and expression for the topic. And, I think that is refreshing because for this type of work, dealing with issues of justice reform or reentry services and family reunification for people who have, been incarcerated. It's like you need to build another generation of people who have an investment in these areas so that you feel like there are others who can carry on the work. So seeing their passion and their concern and their enthusiasm, it just sort of is refreshing that you feel like when it's your time to move on, there'll be others in place to carry on the work. So that's how the interns that I have worked most intimately with, that's what they brought and how they've impacted me.
Excellent. She captured that so beautifully, and that's exactly why we do what we do. Yep, that experience. Yeah.
What about you, Elaine? I would love to hear your perspective too.
Oh, shoot. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, we've been doing this since January 20th, 2020. That's the date that we kicked off our very first episode 4 years ago on the national holiday of Martin Luther King. And from that time, we started with one intern, one, doing all of this with one. It was myself and one intern. And when I look back at it, I think, oh my God, how did I do that? And was working a full-time job and still do, and not lose my mind. Now, I have learned a lot. And one of the things that I have learned from the various cohorts, we're on cohort number 11, and this is our fourth year. And what I learned is that what I suspected, the generation coming up has a lot of relevancy in terms of being able to put forth concrete ideas and suggestions for issue areas that we need to tackle. And I left space and room for input because all information does not lie with us. I believe that when you give autonomy and levels of creativity and innovation, you will enhance what you're trying to do in exponential ways. And so I have been very, very blessed by all of the cohorts. Each cohort brought something different and helped us to continue to build on what we're doing. And if you notice, we had previously we had our initial logos that were created for the shows. And as you can see behind us now, we have new branding. That's a part of our internship program in terms of folks contributing at one level and allowing us to be able to elevate. The guests that we bring each week, it's our production team. It's our, and we refer to our interns as associate producers because they are associating with us and producing what we do every Saturday. So we are very thankful for the input, for the collaboration, for the participation, and also for being willing to be flexible in learning what we're bringing to you. The new platforms, whether it's, Facebook Workplace or Trello or any of the things that we utilize to make this happen, all cohorts have been very flexible and willing to learn a new skill set. So I think it's been beneficial for all, but for me, the enthusiasm and the stick-to-itiveness, the excitement, the energy, the input, the feedback is, to me, what keeps the enthusiasm for us going to keep doing this, because we're saying, look, this is real, it's relevant, and we're going to keep this going because I believe we're impacting a lot of people in the generations to come.
That's really nice of you. I love hearing everything you have to say, Elaine. So you touched about like they were associate producers. I
Yes,
would love for all interns to share their experience and what brought them here today.
and I'd love to hear.
If anything, I could start first.
Go
I
ahead.
think for me, I've always wanted to challenge myself in using my voice. And I think this internship was a great opportunity for me to grow in that aspect. But not only that, doing it with the intention of helping my community. And I think that has been a very important aspect as a student.
Thank you.
I could popcorn it to Kovan.
Thank goodness you popcorned it because I was gonna be like, do I raise my hand? But ultimately, overall, I think I chose this uh, just because I never really have done something super creative and outreaching like this. I've done something creative in the past, like public speaking and stuff.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like outreach and getting connected to a larger audience, I've never really had the opportunity to practice that, as well as like reaching out to people who are way farther along in their careers to ask for advice and for interviews, which was super daunting at first. But honestly, that was like the worst part about the internship is getting the rejections from people. Like constant rejections for the first few weeks. I felt like I wasn't even doing anything. But then once the ball started to get rolling, I was like, all right, this makes sense. I'm finding a lot of value here. And so far, almost every single guest that we've had, I'm like, please give me their information. I really want to talk to them afterwards, because they're all really, really cool and like heavily associated with the career path that I want to get into. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, okay. You want a popcorn, Kavan?
yes, to Jackson.
So I'm coming in with a slightly different background than Kavan. I never was very thrilled about public speaking. Never very good at it in my own personal opinion. But recently, right after graduating from undergrad at St. Norbert College, when I was still kind of exploring like what I wanted to do. I had been accepted at Adler at that point, but I was still exploring some of my options and looking at other internship programs as well. One of which was the Collegiate Hiring Initiative for the FBI. And because my father worked in law enforcement and was retired, I actually had the opportunity to do a phone interview with somebody who was in charge. I don't know if I can name drop, so I will refrain from doing that right now. But I believe he's retired and was heading up the Honors Initiate Program. So I had just sort of asked him some questions on because the deadline had closed at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was asking him some questions regarding what could help me stand out as somebody interested in joining that program. And he gave me a lot of very insightful and enlightening themes to sort of focus on as I'm sort of going through Adler. One of which was developing some interviewing skills. And we definitely get that in spades here during our internship program as associate producers. And I'm very grateful for it because not only will it help me, for professional development in that way, but also hopefully help me as a future counselor and clinical practitioner as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I'm gonna tell you what, that's going to help us too in our marketing. These are ways that this can help you. Okay. Great to hear. Great to hear. Okay. All right. Great. Daria?
Yeah, very similar to everybody else. Like, I'm so grateful that every week we have the opportunity to like learn from all these experts to really expand like our minds and realities of what is going on, and getting this, all these tools that we can use in the future. I think that I wanted to choose this internship because I also am very nervous about public speaking, but I thought this would be a great growth edge for me. And, as a future clinician, like I love talking to other people. I love learning their stories. So it felt like a good match, and an opportunity to become like a more socially responsible clinician. So it's been really wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all.
Now, you know what? That's an interesting closeout when you say more socially responsible clinician, because that's one of the things I was hoping you all would pick up on is many of you all are in mental health programs, counseling programs, forensic, and to be socially responsible is important. To understand and know the nuances of people, communities, just how we navigate as a people, more than just being concerned with, I guess, the diagnoses and clinical stuff. They're still human, right? And we have a responsibility in society to really be concerned about how we show up socially in a responsible manner. So that's a good point. Karen?
And I was just going to add real quickly, I would, with that last statement that Daria made, it makes me again think about cultural competence. And in this particular class that I'm associated with at a university here, there was an article that talked about looking at cultural competence versus cultural humility. So it really seems like there's just a great expansion on that. Mm-hmm. So I love the idea of using this to be a socially responsible and aware clinician, because that is definitely important in our country, in our future, in our world going forward. That it's really going to be hard to do anything well if someone is not, socially aware and culturally humble and competent.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a good point. All right, Anelli?
Okay. So the next question would be for the interns or for everybody, what does a typical day look like for you being part of the talk show? And what specific tasks do you handle? And how do you prioritize your workload?
Well, that's a three-part question. You might want to ask that one at a time.
I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
so what does
It's
a
okay.
typical day look like?
Okay, don't rush.
I'll go ahead and do this one because mine is probably the easiest. It starts up with me getting up in the morning and just staring at the wall for a really long time, just trying to get the steam engines in my brain running. And then when those finally get running, I go to school. And then throughout school, I'm pretty sure I just casually look stuff up like whenever I have the chance. Because that's the best part about this internship is that because it's purely 100% online, most of my research I can do like between classes, and I can do it on the way to school, or I can do it on the train on the way to go see my like cousins or something like that. And all I'm really doing is just reading and like looking up research and sending emails. So like I can do it at literally any time of the day, and there's certain days where I don't do it at all, and there's certain days that I put in a bunch of work for it. So it's really flexible and really nice. And I've wanted to start that out and set the bar really low just in case someone comes in with an insanely responsibly full day of work. So that's me.
Yeah, I will also speak towards the flexibility of this program for sure. On top of being like a full-time student, I also work part-time. So being able to sort of do work with this internship program despite other obligations I have is something that is very important to me, and something which definitely caught my attention when I was looking at the internships offered from Adler. Um, and it was a big reason why I wanted to take on as much as I could. Um, Typically, I try to take things from week to week, balancing out the rest of my schedule as well. I tend to do most of my work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which kind of falls in the framework that the internship program sort of allows for. So I'm glad that I was able to do that as well. Um, Typically, I would say a majority of my work goes to uh, probably preparing for the interviews and researching guest speakers and sort of emailing back and forth, making sure communication is transparent, and that guests sort of know what they're getting into when they come on the platform and are hopefully like feel like they're adequately ready to have discussions about such topics by being sent the questions ahead of time so that they can prepare thorough responses.
Next.
Yeah, in regards for preparation and time management with the internship, I also, of course, am a full-time student and I do work part-time. So um, it has been, when I do have free time or in preparation for shows, like, week in advance, just researching our guests and also just coming up with questions that I personally am curious about, I think has been great um, and an educational experience for me. Um, yeah, it's nice, not too stressful, but I'm also grateful I've definitely found a community through this internship and made some friends.
Good.
I could go
Thank you.
next. I I am a full-time student, first year in my grad program for couple and family therapy. I work full-time. I work with youth who are in residential, so they seek male youth therapy. So I work in the mental health field and also go to school in the mental health field. And this internship, I see it as well as a resource for as the mental health field too. So it's something I am very passionate about. Um, I have to be very diligent in how I plan everything, but I do want to give a shout out to Elaine being a supervisor for me that has been very helpful And also, big shout out to Kavan. Sometimes we will meet in between classes, and sometimes I will be freaking out what to do if we get cancellation. And he has been there for me. So I do appreciate the teamwork that has been here and all the community. And I think that we've been doing a great job. And I'm interested to know what our executive team days look like.
Really? You really want to know that?
Yes.
Let me go first because my day is not as taxing as Elaine and Carla. So, as the clinical show consultant, essentially what I do is once you all have done all of the hard work and the research and you've identified the person, I go in and for the shows, I read the cards and then I actually go to the actual speaker's website. I do a review of their material. I also like to maybe check them out at any other public sites where they are associated and try to do a good review. If there's an opportunity to read up an article or something on them, I try to do that. And then just try to figure out, again, I haven't been able to do much of that this season, but I also just try to draft questions, usually from the perspective of how is this impacting family? How is this impacting reunification? What are the needs? What do we see as the sort of the clinical needs for the population, and then also about the people who work with the population. So my part is really, really easy. The hard stuff is on the others. So a lot of mine is just sort of researching, reviewing, and drafting the question or two.
So was that question directed to everyone? I want to make sure I understood.
The executive team. That's us.
Okay. So I guess the question was, what does our days look like with respect to the show or overall? Let me make sure I clarify that.
It could be whatever you want.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with my just general days. I work part-time and by a professional trade. I'm a teacher, not teaching right now. High school mathematics was the class, taught everything from algebra 1 to pre-calculus. Once I moved to Memphis, I wanted to shift my professional focus, and I went into and policy and leadership in the education field and got a master in that. And then even after I got my master's, I didn't jump into that work. I wanted to be able to be free to keep my hands in the education field, but is also to do some other things. So that would mean for me, I couldn't be on a 9 to 5. So right now I work part-time at a family company, Gateway Roofing, located in St. Louis, Missouri, giving the plug for Raynard Davidson, been in business for about 35 years.
Now, Jackson
Yes,
just wasn't sure if he could name drop. So we might have to circle back and allow folks to name drop. So go ahead.
I'm sorry. I missed the instructions. Okay. All right. So I am working there part-time financial executive assistant, trying to help. They're shifting the company in a newer direction, a more relevant direction with technology and streamlining processes. So I'm there working that part-time, which frees me up to do the JustUs Youth Show. It frees me up to do a lot of volunteering work that I'm involved with. So my days look like Tuesday to Thursday, I work from 9 to 2. On Mondays was my volunteer day. I volunteered at a women's drop-in center in Memphis, Tennessee, that by the name of LeSue, where we helped women who were on the street. They would drop in. We would feed them. They take showers. We give them care bags. We have mental health, and we had other social services professionals who were on site who kind of help the women with their particular needs. We had art therapy going on. All of that was taking place on Mondays. Currently, because of funding, the center is closed. So now I go out on Thursday nights, and what I do is we go to the women. We go out on the strip where the ladies are, where they're working. Many of our ladies are sex workers. and we're giving them care bags. We're, giving them, taking them a meal, having conversations with them. The same things that we were doing in the home, we're taking it to the street. So that's about 3 or 4 hours on Thursday evening. Now, how do I tie all of that in with the Justice Youth Show and my work there? I taught at an alternative school where we had undercredited and overage students. So they were in this transitional stage of graduating high school and going into the world to be able to sustain themselves. And for me, the connection is trying to understand how you help a young person who's maybe already in the justice system some kind of way move into adulthood and not carry that baggage with them. So, looking at the topics that the Justice Youth Talk Show looks at, it gives me some insight on mental health, the justice system, young people from all facets of life, and wanting to get information out to not only our young people, but also to the parents and the communities that they live in, things that are pressing, things that you need to know. I was a huge advocate for my parents and students in the school system. I wasn't all about what the administrators were talking about or my other, what I would say, upper management. My thing, I needed to make sure the voices of parents and the community and students was being heard. And I see this talk show as a platform to be able to do that. Now, directly with the show, what has been good for me is moving from a teacher mode to more of a guide, someone who's just guiding. I kind of measure the work that I do based on the number of questions I get from Daria and Jackson. They tell me if I am giving enough clarity to my instructions. They get an agenda. It's supposed to be out on Monday. That doesn't always happen. They probably get it just as they are logging in on Tuesday morning, but it gives them kind of an outline of what I'm expecting from them with deadlines, if deadlines are necessary. And what I do, I give the agenda. If it's not clear, Jackson or Doria, they'll send me a little note asking for further clarification, or we can jump on and do a quick one-on-one. And I kind of just let them develop the shows. I let them come with the questions. I let them, just kind of put it all together. There was an excellent job of finding our speakers this season, crafting the questions, and all I do is go behind and look at the questions. And I don't see anything that's, just way left or way right. I stay with it. We come together on Friday. They're given an opportunity to share what they have done throughout the week, giving us an outline of their show. So I'm really there to guide. This is a show for our young people, for our interns, from our Atlas students. They're putting it together. And I am here to ensure that it's shaped in a way that it's informative for our audience and gives them an opportunity to delve deeper into the justice system from a youth perspective. So I know that was a lot. I just want to jump in since I was running late and just kind of give an overview of who I am, what I do, and just a plug for our Justice Youth Talk Show and for any interns out there that's looking to get into this type of work. So, Elaine.
Yes, thank you for the connection. And it brought it all full circle. Why you do and as much. And I do have a full-time job, and I am the deputy director for a national civil rights organization, deputy director for community engagement. Now, I've been in this space of justice reform work for over 35 years, having actually did a lot of my work in the DC area and Atlanta, and working on behalf of individuals who have been incarcerated, those with disabilities in jails and prisons. And so this was a natural extension for me, but also a calling. About 10 years ago, I kept sensing that there really needed to be something more, more uniquely developed and defined to address the needs of family members and friends, because often I found myself working with those who are familiar with the issues, who it's almost like preaching to the choir. When you work at the national level with federal projects and things, everybody knows each other. We all know what the language is. We know what needs to be done. But we were talking around the people who were most impacted, and they really oftentimes didn't know or how to find a way to really center stuff for those most impacted. So one of the things that was central in my understanding is, how do we get information out to those impacted in a way that will allow them to still engage and get information in spite of their other obligations and challenges. Many people who are impacted by incarceration, meaning those who are family members and friends, are working. A lot of them are taking care of children of incarcerated parents. And so they often don't have the time to become fully engaged in understanding and finding out where these resources are. So I wanted us to bring the resources to them in a way that they most receive information. And what I understood was that a lot of folks get their information through social media. And we needed to find a way to put that before them in a palatable way. And so I started out actually thinking that this was going to take place and kick off in Atlanta when I was in Atlanta. But when I made a transition to St. Louis, it was made clear to me in terms of how things opened up in St. Louis. This was the space that it was going to manifest in, and it has. A lot of the opportunities came about through some real strong connections from my professional life, and then also connections that doors that were open for me to be able to expand our capacity. So I have to be very strategic with my time, since I work full time. Now, one of the blessed things is that I've always had Fridays off. So that's why we do a lot of what we do on Fridays, because I'm able to manage and prioritize what I do for the show on Fridays, and then sometime on the weekends. And that is also why we have the internship program structured the way we do, and the fact that it's remote. Now, I'm still very much a champion. I still champion the idea of remote, because I know that's the future. It is the future. The future is now. And people need to be able to know how to work in remote spaces. People do not need to think that working remote means I get to lay around and lounge at home and just chill and do a little bit of work, right? No, there's a science to putting together the infrastructure and operations for a remote operation or space like this. You got to have the proper tools in place, the proper planning. You got to do intern orientation and training. You need like a knowledge library so folks have a way to go in and have reference materials. This took a lot of work. And a lot of what you see here, and to the production team that's current, a lot of what you have been exposed to through our knowledge library and other aspects were projects of former interns and other cohorts. So along the way, each cohort has helped us to build this out. Okay, so it's been very strategic, very much time has taken to be able to plan and think about how to make the internship beneficial to all of the students that come through, and memorable, and more importantly, for them to adopt skill sets that are transferable to their future career paths. So, I do this. I often sleep and eat this. And trying to sleep and eat my day job too, but it's rewarding. It's rewarding because we see that the need is being met. We see that the social justice practicum interns from Adler are being able to supplement their academic coursework through our master classes with the special guests afterwards. So it is just it's a labor of love. It doesn't feel like work. So although I work full time and do this, it doesn't seem like work. It's just a natural extension of what I've done for the last 30 some odd years. Thank you for the question, Nellie.
No problem, Alana. Do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
This could be our last one. What insights have you gained from working with experts and advocates in the field of criminal justice reform?
Repeat the question again. What insights and perspectives?
Yeah, so what insights have you guys gained from working with experts, such as our guests, for the criminal justice reform?
Anybody can go first, Karen.
Yeah, what I would like to add to this, we've had lots of guests, wonderful topics. Everything has been incredibly impactful. But I will say that there is, her first name is Rhonda, cannot think of her last name. She is a mitigation specialist. And so I think she works in the realm of what we would call like the forensic social work, and the place where, okay, people are going to be sentenced. We know that they're going to get time. And so the mitigation specialist is the person who's doing a lot of the psychosocial family background work to present information that supports, all of these mitigating circumstances that sort of led a person down a particular path. And often people feel like those are excuses. People need to just serve the full time. We don't really care what impacted them. But listening to her and her work and seeing the full impact, even when people are not necessarily released, maybe their time is shortened or whatever the case may be, it's the intimate personal work that lets the person who is incarcerated know that there is still someone who very much cares about them and the impact of their actions and how their life has changed and their families work. So there have been lots of people. Everybody's incredibly impactful. But I think she helped to really spotlight an area that we don't really hear a lot about. And probably because there's not a lot of interest, because we in this country, or just in general, we've just been geared more toward making sure that people are punished and serve their full term of punishment. But the mitigation specialist in this realm is incredibly important. So that was the one that stands out for me out of everything.
Well, for me, what I have learned coming from the education field, from a classroom where I'm teaching young people and moving into this space, the show overall and the experts that we have, had on our show has helped me to better grasp that there's a need at every level of a young person's growth, and that there's no one area that is more impactful than another when you take a person as an individual. And that is finding out what young people need. Karen mentioned the mitigation specialist, and what I see that as being as the person that can speak up for individuals that can't speak for themselves. And that was my role when I was in the school system. I would go into the IEP meetings, the individual education plan meetings with parents and students, and you have the professionals who are sitting and speaking over the parent's head. Sometimes if the parent couldn't be there, the child is sitting there themselves. And a couple of times I had to say to the professionals in the room, because they were using language I didn't understand either, could you explain that? I don't know if this child understands what's being said. I look at the parent is sitting there, and they're not, you can tell by the expression on an individual's face that they're really not following what's going on. And that's where I found my greatest joy, is making sure that parents and the students understood what was happening to them. So what I have learned being in this space, or what has been impactful for me in this space, is hearing the needs of our young people and being able to disseminate it, not just on this platform, but with other people that I come in contact with. So it's using all of the information and making sure that it's being disseminated in a way that everybody can understand it. So that's what I get as I listen to my experts. There's just so much information out here. We can't have our hand in all of it. However, I see me being able to take what I've learned and staying connected with young people who are still in the education system, with my colleagues that are still in the education system, and letting them know about what's going on and disseminating information from other experts, that has been helpful. So this has really been a great space to help even the education system kind of see where they may be missing the boat with educating our young people. So that's how it has helped me.
My insights are centered around systemic issues. Systemic in that a lot of folks don't challenge the system. They go along with the system. And I think they don't challenge it because they don't know how. There are plenty of opportunities that I think people are presented with where they could do something different, make a difference, instill hope. As we had one of our guests talk about hope a few weeks ago, and they don't do it. And I think some of that has to do with really being so indoctrinated into a system that it's like group think. I can't break away from the group think posture. And I really am not a group thinker, which is why I think I have been blessed with the opportunities to kind of see some things ahead of time and step out on them and bring it to fruition to try to help people. I don't hesitate. So when I look in this space over the 35 years and see that there are things that could be done differently, and I'm given the visual on how to do it, I just don't hesitate to run with it, because there are too many people that need help. And if we continue to be in this groupthink posture, this systems posture, there are going to be people who we miss. The reason why it was important also for these two shows and platforms to be developed is because we do have another generation of folks coming up behind us. And I know that academically, they may not be getting what they get here. See, they're getting the academic side of the justice system. This is how we do things. It's about safety and security. It does not employ the humanistic side of the interactions that you could potentially have with people to bring about change, to instill hope. It's more containment, confinement, security. And so we've got to learn how to blend those things in a very constructive manner. And that's what I gleaned, was when I was going into these facilities and meeting people, that we were very low on the human perspective, very low on how to take an interest and embrace people who we should not always look at as their past, not going the extra mile to say, what can I do different? And so this is, again, goes back to why we're saying platforms and opportunities like this help us to impact the next generation. It helps us to impact family and friends impacted. It helps us to impact those who are in the system or coming out. And that is what I took away from insights of my time in the space in that different way, that I'd like to leave with everybody, that it's important that we find ways to bring about change and to let people know that there are opportunities for second chances. And Nellie?
Yeah, I think that it might seem so little and what we're doing, but it's actually not. It's a lot. And the biggest thing is raising awareness to a lot of resources that are out there. I would also want to hear from the interns on their take on it.
your question that says, what insights have you gained from working with experts and advocates
Yeah.
in the field? Okay.
Yeah.
And we've got about 5 minutes.
I can go. I feel like something important that, Elaine, you touched on, and also Carla, is that we can't have our hand in everything. Like, we always have more to learn and to gain from listening to other people, from understanding their worldview and where they're coming from, in order to better ourselves, in order to take action. So that is definitely something that I have learned from this space, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I'll say something that I always ask our guests, especially the ones that I interview, is what books would you recommend? Just because I always just like hearing like what sort of information that they are coming in with, whether that be through their lived experience or their, educational background or what have you. I just like trying to fill in all the gaps I possibly can with respect to my own personal knowledge and what I have experienced. And, I think it's always beneficial to hear and understand where others are coming from in order to just, gain that, you know, have that sort of framework when you're interacting with, others in general and in different spaces.
Great.
I think overall it just helped me become more comfortable with the space in general. I think learning from people who are like my seniors in the career, hearing their struggles and like all of the BS they had to go through makes me feel okay that I'm going through the same thing. So as long as I know that it's a bumpy ride for everyone, but we're all here together and kind of getting through it together, it made the future seem a lot brighter than it once was when you're just sitting there and studying nonstop and you're not engaging with people in the field who've already been and doing the work for a little bit, rather than just doing academic work purely. So just the fact that I can get out there and have experience with people who have so much knowledge and wisdom and experience themselves really calmed my own anxieties regarding this whole, my whole career choice.
Thank
Nelly?
you guys all for being really vulnerable and transparent. I think with this, I have learned so much about you guys. And we are ending at the end of the show, and I'll give the role to Elaine to finish it off.
All right. So we've got 2 minutes. I want to ask one final question of the production team. Would you recommend this internship program to your student colleagues? And if so, why? And you've got 30 seconds each.
I'll definitely refer the show. I think it's really impactful, it's flexible, and it has a great community.
Great. Popcorn? Kavan?
I was just gonna say I also really appreciate the fact that I got to know so many people, and I do recommend it in the future. It's a lot more fun and a lot more work than I had anticipated. So, yeah, that's basically it. I do recommend.
Okay. Jackson?
Yeah, I would say I really love the team dynamic and networking opportunities too that we get to have with our guest speakers, and a chance to work with them and further collaborate with them, as well as just networking within Adler as well, getting a chance to speak and work with like students who are in this ID program, whereas me, who was in a master's program, wouldn't always get the opportunity to engage with those students. And with respect to the internship platform, I'm surprised more Adler students didn't join initially, just because of the flexibility and independence that is offered here. It really allows me to see like the consequences of the work that I put in, and I'm very grateful for that.
Right. And you know what? To speak to, and I'll get to you, Dari, to speak to your point about more, let me tell you, this is normal. This is our smallest cohort. We normally in the past have run anywhere from 8 to 10 interns, right? But we still, what we got done with this cohort, we got done with the larger team. So it doesn't really matter. It's how we structure what we do to get the work done, right? This is our 4th year, our 7th season of the JustUs Beat Talk Show, our 2nd season of the JustUs Youth Talk Show, and we've had 75 interns over 11 cohorts. Okay. So yeah, but thank you for that. Daria?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this internship to anybody who's interested. Incredibly supportive, team overall, but also a lot of opportunity to grow and on your own and do your own thing, which is really wonderful. And I would definitely recommend this to anybody who loves interviewing and like has an interest in starting their own show. This is a really great opportunity to develop those skills.
Great. Thank you. All right. Nelly, did you go? I think you did.
I was the first one to
You're
go.
the first one. Okay, I wanted to make sure I don't skip you because I could do that. I don't see you on the screen, but anyway, so great. It's 10:59, and this has been a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase our production team. Because without you all, I want you to understand this. We really would not have the capacity to do this the way we do it in such a stellar way. Okay, and I want to say kudos to each one of you. Secondly, I want to thank you for your honesty and describing your experience here, even some of the challenges you may have had in terms of wondering whether or not you could do this. And that's why Carla, Karen, and I are always encouraging you and showing you the way, and uplifting you to make sure that you know, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And we're thankful for you for that. We're also very delighted to know that you will walk away at the end of April of this 6-month internship with skill sets that are transferable, with skill sets that you gained here, and also an increased and enhanced knowledge base of having worked with these experts that could either academically supplement your coursework or to supplement your pathway as you go forward. When you look back and say, I was exposed to this through this internship program. And we thank you. We thank our JustUs Beat family for joining us once again for another episode. I thank my 2 co-hosts and cohorts in this, well, actually, my sisters, okay, as y'all should know, y'all already know, all 3 of us are sisters, for being there and for us being able to collaborate in this manner. It is a blessing. And so, Anelli, wonderful questions. Kavan, wonderful questions and feedback. We thank you. Join us next Saturday for another edition of the JustUs Beat Talk Show, where we will be bringing you the JustUs Youth Talk Show with Carla and Karen. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend.